My name is Jane and I'm 35 years old. My husband's name is Rai and he's 33. We've been married for about 2 years, which isn't that long. But before we got married, we dated for 7 years, so it feels like we've been together forever. Our relationship has been great. Rai has always been a perfect husband. He's the kind of man you only hear about in fairy tales or see in movies. Rai has taken really good care of me over the years. He's been my rock, my protector, and my best friend. From the moment we got married, he said I didn't need to work. He wanted me to focus on being a stay. At the moment, I'm not sure. He's been a great support, helping me to become a stay-at-home wife and later a mum without having to stress about a career or anything else. He's always been so involved in our marriage planning, romantic nights, and going out of his way to make me feel special. He's the kind of husband every woman dreams of. I genuinely love him. I love Rai with all my heart and respect him. I've always appreciated everything he's done for me. He's been perfect in many ways, but I'm not perfect myself. There was a time when we hit a rough patch, and I made a mistake. I deeply regret it, and it's now threatening our relationship. I would be lying if I said I never suspected that our daughter wasn't raised by her dad from the moment she was born. I noticed that she didn't resemble him at all. She looked like me in some ways, but as she grew it became increasingly evident that she had some of my affair partner's facial features. The resemblance was undeniable, and it would eat at me every time I looked at her. By the time our daughter was approaching her 3rd birthday, the doubt had become a persistent worry for me. I decided to get a DNA test done. I knew that I might be confirming my worst fears, but I was so curious that I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I didn't tell Rai, and when the results came back they confirmed that she was not Rai's biological child. I was so shocked, I didn't know what to do. I was paralyzed by fear and unable to think clearly. My mind was racing with all the possible consequences. I told myself that if I revealed the truth, I would lose everything: my marriage, my family, my support system. Everyone would blame me for the deception, and I would be left utterly alone. More than that, our daughter would lose. The father she adored, Rai, had always been a loving and devoted parent to her, and she loved him dearly. The thought of her losing that was unbearable, so in my desperation, I made the decision to keep the truth hidden. I convinced myself that it didn't matter if she wasn't Rai's biological child. What mattered was the love and bond they shared. Rai had embraced her as his own, and in my mind that was enough. I told myself that I would never tell anyone, that the secret would die with me. I had quit my job shortly after finding out I was pregnant, choosing to focus on being a stay. I was at a bit of a loose end. I was a housewife and mum. I hadn't seen my affair partner since I ended things with him. I even heard that he moved away from town a year ago. It was good because he wouldn't be around to question or challenge my decisions. My affair partner was frankly someone I consider scum. He wouldn't fight for his place in our daughter's life, so I continued with my life, trying to maintain the facade of the happy family. I was convinced that this was the best thing to do, even though I knew deep down that it was a terrible mistake. I managed to push the guilt and anxiety aside and focused on making sure Rai and our daughter continued to live their seemingly perfect life. Things continued to be great for a very long time. Rai and I were happy in our marriage. His relationship with our daughter was wonderful, and even with all the stress and guilt I was carrying, there were moments when I almost forgot about the mistake I had made. It felt like everything was settling into a routine. Rai's family, on the other hand, had always had a problem with me. I won't even sugarcoat it. His sisters and his mum never liked me from the start. I think it had to do with the fact that Rai is her only son, and his mother is especially clingy. They'd make subtle comments and jokes about how our daughter didn't look like Rai. It was as if they were constantly trying to highlight the differences. Rai was always supportive though. He'd brush off their comments and even threaten to cut them off if they didn't stop. He didn't want our daughter to overhear their negativity or grow up hearing it and have doubts about her place in our family. It seemed like the issue was behind us. I honestly believed that Rai would never find out the truth. I should have known he'd get suspicious at some point. Our daughter fell ill and had to be hospitalized for a while when she needed a blood donation. We suggested that Rai do it. I thought we'd got past it. I was sure Rai wouldn't find out the truth and that everything would be fine. But then, it all fell apart. Rai was always there for us, and I should have known he'd get suspicious at some point. Our daughter fell ill and had to be hospitalized for a while when she needed a blood donation. We suggested that Ray do it. However, he wasn't a match, which made him even more curious. Rai works in cybersecurity, so he doesn't know much about genetics or DNA. When he mentioned his confusion about not being a match, I quickly told him it was probably just because she matched me, and not him. He seemed to buy it, and I ended up being the one to donate blood for our daughter. She got better and was discharged from the hospital for a little while. Everything seemed normal at first, but then last night everything changed. Ray confronted me in the evening. Our daughter was already in bed and we were about to turn in ourselves when Ray handed me a document and asked me to read it. I looked at it and felt my world crumble. It was a DNA test result confirming that Ray was not our daughter's biological father. I was struck dumb. I didn't know what to say or how to defend myself. Ray didn't have an answer either. I thought I'd wait for him to say something, but he just stormed out of the house. I've been trying to reach him since then, calling and texting, but he hasn't responded. It's been a whole day now and I'm really worried. What if something has happened to him? I'm even thinking about going to the police to report him missing, but my parents and siblings won't pick up their phones either. I feel utterly isolated. Our daughter is asking about him. Rai and I are at a loss as to how to respond to her. I feel like I have nowhere to turn. Reddit, if you have any advice, I'm begging you to share it. I know I've made mistakes, and I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I still want to fight for my marriage and my family. I love Ray and I don't want to lose him, but I don't know how to fix this. Update, Reddit, it's me again. I have to say the backlash has been intense. From my last post, I can see that people are really angry with me. I know I messed up and I know I deserve the criticism, but can we ease up on the hate? I'm just a person like everyone else and I can't help but think that a lot of the hate comes from people who might be dealing with their own issues anyway. As for the update, Rai finally came home about 2 days after I posted. He was incredibly distant, but at least he was interacting with our daughter. I was worried he might ignore her, but thankfully he didn't. He played with her, took her to preschool, and then told me we needed to talk. He said he'd be back after picking up our daughter, and we had a serious discussion when he returned. He then told me he wanted a divorce and was going to sue me for emotional distress and paternity fraud. He was adamant about removing his name from our daughter's birth certificate. He also wanted to change the birth certificate and said he wanted to end our relationship. I was shocked and started crying. I didn't know what to do. He said I had to leave before picking up our daughter from preschool and then take her to my parents' house. He didn't want to see us again except in court. He seemed out of it. He ignored me when I spoke and didn't even react to my tears. I left the house and he even took the car. So I had to call an Uber by the time I got to my parents' place. Ray had already cleared out our joint account. My parents were surprised to see me and not pleased when they found out what I had done. They were angry and blamed me entirely, calling me a cheater and saying I brought this on myself. They only agreed to let me stay with them because of our daughter. So, I've been living my parents, and I haven't seen eye to eye. They've been supportive, but there's a lot of tension, and the atmosphere is anything but comforting. Rai and I haven't spoken for about 3 days now, and our daughter keeps asking about him. I don't know what to tell her. I feel lost and confused. I'm trying to piece together how everything I worked for could collapse in just a few days. Hi again, sorry for the delay. Things have been pretty confusing and overwhelming recently. I've been trying to figure out what to do next, but it feels like I'm just stuck. I reached out to Rai to see if he'd consider visiting our daughter, but he flat out refused. I thought he might ignore my message, but he responded and said he wouldn't because she isn't his daughter. He also warned me that I'd be served with legal papers soon, so I need to prepare myself. I'm honestly scared about what's coming next. My parents have said they're going to try talking to him directly. They think it's better to talk face to face than over the phone, so they plan to go to his house when they know he'll be there. He'll be there. Rai has a pretty regular schedule, so they shouldn't have too much trouble catching him. My parents are pretty good at persuading people, so I'm hoping they can convince him to at least talk to me or work something out. Otherwise, there's not much new to report. I've seen a lot of comments suggesting I should get a job, and I know I will definitely look for work, even if Rai forgives me. I'm determined to get a job, because I never want to be in a situation like this again. Right now, I'm relying on my parents since I don't have any savings and no job, so finding employment is a priority for me. I'm already looking for a job, thanks for all the advice and patience. I'll let you know as soon as I have more news. Hi Reddit, I promised I'd update you after my parents talked to Ray, and here I am. Unfortunately, things didn't go as I'd hoped. Like many of you predicted, Rai refused to listen to my parents. I really should have taken your advice and told them not to try talking to him. Rai was firm and unwilling to hear them out. He told them he's done with me and our daughter. He made it clear that he can't accept being a father to a child that isn't his, and the fact that I'd lied to him for years until he discovered the truth. The truth made things worse. My parents tried to persuade him to at least settle for divorce and avoid legal action, but he was adamant about suing. He said he wanted me to stop texting him and trying to get him to visit our daughter, so it seems he's completely done with us. I'm struggling to come to terms with this. It feels like everything I built over the past few years is crumbling in a matter of weeks. It's barely been 3 weeks since I moved in with my parents and things have spiraled out of control so quickly. I still don't know how to explain this to my daughter. I keep telling her that Ray is away on a trip. But I'm running out of excuses. Rai also told my parents to expect legal papers soon. I'm honestly at a loss for what to do next, on top of everything. I know I need to start looking for a job. I've asked my parents if they know of any openings at their workplaces, and they said they'd help me look into it. Hopefully, something will come up soon. I'll be sharing an update soon. I know many of you have been asking for news, but I didn't have much to share because I've been incredibly busy. I wanted to wait until I had something significant to update on. I'm in a whirlwind of confusion at the moment. I'm trying to get my life back on track, so I thought I'd share what's been going on. I'm not in a permanent job yet, but I've managed to pick up a small side gig. It's not much, but it's something and helps with the bills. I've been trying to stay focused on job hunting and figuring out my next steps. Today was a particularly rough day. I was served with legal papers from Rai today, which was a bit of a shock. It seems he wasn't joking when he said he'd sue me. He's not just asking for a divorce, he's suing me for emotional distress and paternity fraud. I'm still in shock. It feels like my world has come crashing down and I'm trying to pick up the pieces. I didn't handle it well and sent him a message lashing out and blaming him for everything. I told him that this was exactly why I didn't want to tell him the truth in the first place, because I knew it would lead to this. I told him he's broken our daughter's heart, and I don't think I'll ever forgive him for that. I'm scared. I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed right now. It feels like I've lost everything: my marriage, my family, and the life I knew. I never imagined things would spiral this badly. I'm not sure how to fix this or if things will ever get better. The constant messages and demands for updates are adding to my stress, and I'm finding it hard to cope. I appreciate the support I've received, but I'm going to need some space for a while. I'll share updates when I have something meaningful to share. I'm really happy about everything that's happened, but they've been sending me messages non-stop, calling me all sorts of names like cheater, horrible person, and so on. I've been blocking their numbers, but new ones just keep popping up, and the harassment doesn't seem to stop. I'm at my wit's end trying to handle this. I'm trying to get in touch with Rai to see if he can help me deal with the situation with his family. I'm feeling really overwhelmed and exhausted. I'm struggling to keep everything together, and the constant negativity is making me feel sick and hopeless. Through all this, my daughter has been a great support. She's been a great source of support and motivation for me, but it's tough to stay strong when I'm dealing with so much emotional and mental strain. I'm not sure what else to do or how to make this stop. I just needed to vent and let you all know how much this is affecting me. I wanted to give you all an update on how things are going. I know many of you have been asking for an update and I appreciate your concern. I'm not entirely sure what you're expecting me to say, but here's where I'm at right now. The hate messages from Ray's mom and siblings have stopped, thankfully. I reached out to him, and he must have talked to them. I've got a job interview lined up for next week, so I really need this job to help stabilize my situation. If you could wish me luck, I'd appreciate it. On another note, things are quite tough financially. My parents don't have much saved up, and we're lucky to even own the house we live in. I'm really struggling to make ends meet, and now with the legal issues piling up, I'm feeling the pressure. I know I need a lawyer to handle the lawsuit and help me navigate this mess, but the cost of legal representation is scary. I'm trying to figure out how to manage this, and I'm also doing my best to stay afloat, but it's been a bit of a challenge, but I'll update you when I have more news. For now, I'm focused on getting a job or even more side gigs, so I can afford legal representation. I promised I'd update after the interview, and unfortunately, I didn't get the job. I really needed that position, but things didn't work out. I'm still looking for a job, and it's been very tough. I'm juggling a few side gigs to make ends meet. I'm currently working multiple jobs just to cover the bills, feed my daughter and afford her expenses and contribute to household expenses. My parents have been helping as much as they can, but they have their own financial limits, so I've had to take on as much work as possible in the legal field. My parents have offered to help with some of the costs for a lawyer, which is a relief. I'm really looking forward to putting all this legal trouble behind me. I know Rai probably won't forgive me, and I've realized that I just want to focus on moving forward and trying to rebuild my life. I didn't want to update until I had something solid to share. I've been avoiding it because of the relentless hate comments and nasty DMs, despite people asking for an update. So, here's where we are now that the legal issues are mostly resolved. First, the divorce has been finalized. It was a separate process. I didn't receive anything from the divorce, including assets or debts to split. The challenging part was determining what to do about our daughter, as Ray's name was still on the birth certificate. The birth certificate said he was legally her father, so while I got custody, Rai was still on the hook for child support. He wasn't happy about it, but he didn't have a choice. He only made a few payments before the emotional distress and paternity fraud claims went to court. As many of you guessed, I lost the case. My lawyers argued that what I did was premeditated and cruel, and that I lied to him knowingly and intentionally. My lawyers tried to argue that it was a mistake, and that everyone makes mistakes. But unfortunately that didn't hold up. I ended up having to pay Rai a significant amount of money, which drained I've used up almost all of our savings, so that's where things stand. I probably won't be updating again. I'm posting this in a rush because if I don't do it now, I might never get around to it. Thanks to those who supported me, however few they might have been. I hope this is the last of it. Update. Hey I didn't plan to update. I've been flooded with DMs asking for more details. Some people have said my last update was rushed and unclear. I'll try to clear up a few things though. To be honest, I'm not thrilled about being here. As I mentioned before, Rai won the case. I had to pay him a significant amount of money, which wiped out nearly all our savings. He also had his name removed from our daughter's birth certificate, so he's no longer considered her father. This means he's no longer obligated to pay child support. He's cut all ties with us and has blocked us on all social media. We have no contact with him. This situation has left us in a dire financial situation. We were on the brink of homelessness for a while. My parents have also been struggling to support us, and it's been really tough. I've been working multiple jobs just to keep us afloat, and it's taken a big toll on me physically. I've lost a lot of weight because of the stress and exhaustion. From juggling so many jobs, I'm really feeling the impact on my health. I'm just about managing to get by, and it's tough seeing myself change so drastically because of everything that has happened. I'm doing my best to stay strong for my daughter, but it's really challenging. I hope to find some stability soon and get things back on track, both financially and personally. On top of that, it's been tough on my daughter. She misses her dad and has cried for him a lot. I'm planning to get her into therapy when I can afford it, but right now funds are tight. I also feel really sad at the thought of my daughter growing up without a father figure. It's weighing heavily on me. I feel like I've let her down in the worst way possible. I've even considered reaching out to him. I've even thought about reaching out to my former affair partner, hoping he could be a positive male influence in my daughter's life. But every time I consider it, I back away. I'm afraid of making things more complicated and potentially causing harm. I know I'm to blame for the situation, but I just want to ensure my daughter's well-being and stability. I know I'll have to explain everything to her when she's older, but I'm not sure I can do it. I know I should explain everything to her when she's older, but that thought is overwhelming. I don't know what else to say. Things have been finalized and I've lost a lot. I know it was my fault, and I know it's a pretty toxic place. Updating here feels like a painful reminder of everything that's gone wrong. I know it's my fault, but that doesn't mean I want to be constantly reminded of it.